Hello, class. Now we're on to section 2 of chapter 24. We're going to look again more at Latin America, but also its relationship, particularly with the United States and somewhat with the world as well, outside of the United States. So we'll look at Cuba, particularly, as well as other policies and issues facing the relationship between America and Cuba, but also the other Latin American countries. We have discussed a little bit when we did the Cold War on Cuba already and the Cuban Missile Crisis. So in the late 50s, Castro was able to take power through revolution and nationalize a lot of the main economic industries such as sugar plantations, tobacco plantations, and so on, and put this under government control. And has been, now his health is quite poor, but his brother now is running Cuba, still in a communist fashion. So we as Christian people, and particularly as Americans, of course, are opposed to this type of operation. First, the illegal seizure of power, and secondly, implementing a socialist style government which takes over many of the responsibilities that God has placed on either the home or the church or the local community, and the government then is usurping the authority that the Bible clearly states. So the idea then is that you can somehow make a perfect world where everything is shared and everybody's happy, and we know that that's not a biblical look at. Uh, True friendship is not possible in that way and amongst the world. And not everybody is, the Bible does not talk about everybody has to share everything equal. It does talk about there will always be rich and poor, and that's part of what the way God has established things. So it denies sin, and it says socialism then claims that if man is given the right opportunities, they can coexist perfectly fine without any conflict and with all resources shared. So then we did talk a little bit about the Cuban Missile Crisis in 1963, where they were on the brink of nuclear war. The U.S. then saw these nuclear missiles, and they demanded that they be removed. And there was a face-off, and eventually Khrushchev allowed, he ordered them removed. So that avoided a great disaster, as you can read here. So Castro continued on then with a harsh authoritarian rule like you still have today under his brother Raul. And the conditions are very, very desperate. Many try to even swim the 90 miles from Cuba to try to get to America. Many over the years have successfully migrated to America. They do continue still today to jail and to suppress any other political parties in um, Cuba. Now, other countries like China, who are desperate for natural resources, may end up befriending Cuba and working in Latin America. There is more competition now in Latin America for investment with China, as we discussed a few chapters ago, is trying to rise to economic power. So for many years, our policy has changed in Latin America from the Monroe Doctrine and the Roosevelt Corollary, good neighbor, big stick diplomacy. There's been many different foreign policies, big brother, and that's pretty much where we're at today, where America still looks at Central and South America as sort of not part of America, but under our sway economically and politically and militarily, and that other countries should stay out, such as China. Now, we don't have as much control as we did in the days of the Monroe Doctrine as far as a strict policy of nobody having close economic ties, but it certainly is a goal of America to continue to show great interest in who rises to political power, and therefore we can have closer and closer economic ties with them. Another thing that we've had to show close ties besides through economic trade is combating the illegal drug cartels that a few of the South American countries have large drug cartels that grow and supply drugs to America. So the governments have had to work together to solve that issue, as well as the immigration issue, which is a hot issue right now in America with so many children who are immigrating, and that'd be a good topic for us to dig into. We continue to see efforts at regional cooperation. We talked about LAFTA, which is to break down those trades and extending credit to poorer countries so that they can continue to develop and become strong economies, as Mexico and Venezuela are good examples of economies that are starting to rise. Some of the bigger cities do have quite developed economy. In fact, the wealthiest man in the world currently is Carlos Slim of Mexico. So there is a lot of wealth to be had in the Mexican economy. A few other examples of regional cooperation is the OAS, or the Organization of American States, which includes us and about 20 regional countries, Inter-American Development Bank, and of course NAFTA, which we talked about already. We do have a history of intervention going way back hundreds of years, but more recently infringing in Guatemala, the Bay of Pigs, which did not work out, 65 in Dominican, supporting the Allende dictatorship in Chile in the 70s, invading, Ronald Reagan ordered the invasion of Grenada in 1983 to stop communist uprising there, and then supporting the Contras in Nicaragua in 1989. So these are some examples of intervention, and it still continues on today. We remember studying about the Panama Canal. Obviously, many human rights issues with the illegal drug trade, which we've talked about already. America has got so involved as to even arrest and put on trial the leader of Panama, Manuel Noriega, in 1988. The United States went and arrested a sitting president of another country, accused him of collaboration with the drug trade, and put him on trial. So there's an example of America basically doing its will in South America. Human rights continuing. Duvalier in Haiti was a dictator for many years, and then nowadays, of course, since the hurricane, they're a bit of a chaos. Other examples, Pinochet of Chile, who now is no longer around, but for about 30 years ruled Chile. Today, Obama, of course, does not want, as we talked about the extensions of the Monroe Doctrine, does not want countries like Iran or China or other political or military or economic competitors to take over large parts of Latin America. And so we get accused of interfering, which in many cases we do.